The psychology of winning small, every day. What if the difference between people who win in life and those who stay stuck is not talent, luck, or intelligence, but something so small it almost feels invisible? Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that tiny daily wins can rewire the brain's reward system faster than chasing big, rare victories. That means the person who improves 1% every day often outperforms the one waiting for a breakthrough moment. Think about that for a second. Not a massive change, not a life overhaul, just small wins, stacked quietly, day after day. This is not about motivation. It is about how the brain is trained to respond to progress. And once that system is understood, everything starts to shift. The way goals are set, the way effort feels, even the way failure is interpreted. And this is the psychology of winning small every day, and it might completely change how progress is approached from now on. The hidden power of small wins. Most people underestimate how powerful a small win actually is because it feels insignificant in the moment. Finishing a single task, waking up 10 minutes earlier, choosing discipline once instead of comfort, it does not feel like success. But the brain does not measure success the way people think it does. Every small completion releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to motivation and reward. The brain starts associating effort with satisfaction, and over time, effort becomes easier to repeat. This is why someone who starts with tiny habits often ends up more consistent than someone who goes all in for a week and burns out. The challenge is that small wins are quiet, and they do not get applause, they do not feel dramatic, but they build something much more powerful than hype. They build identity. And once the brain starts believing this is who someone is, consistency stops feeling forced. Why big goals can secretly hold you back. Big goals sound exciting. They look impressive when written down. But there is a hidden problem most people never notice. The bigger the goal, the further away the reward feels, and the brain struggles to stay engaged without immediate feedback. This is why people start strong and then slowly lose momentum. It is not laziness. It is a lack of psychological reinforcement. When progress feels invisible, motivation drops. But when a goal is broken into small, winnable steps, the brain starts receiving constant signals of progress. That changes everything. Suddenly, this effort feels worth it. Energy increases. Focus sharpens. It becomes easier to keep going because the brain is no longer chasing something distant. It is experiencing progress in real time. And that shift turns overwhelming goals into manageable systems that actually get followed. The momentum effect. Nobody talks about momentum is often talked about like it is some magical force, but it is actually a psychological chain reaction. One small win leads to another because the brain wants to repeat what feels good. Completing a task creates a subtle sense of control, and that control spills into the next action. This is why productive days often start with something very small, like making the bed or organizing a workspace. It is not about the task itself, it is about triggering motion. Once motion starts, a stopping becomes harder than continuing. But the opposite is also true. Doing nothing creates inertia, and inertia makes starting feel heavier than it should. The key is not waiting for motivation, but creating the first small action that breaks stillness. Rewiring the fear of failure. Failure feels heavy because most people attach it to identity. One mistake starts to feel like proof of inability. But small wins quietly change this relationship. When progress is measured in small steps, failure becomes less dramatic and more frequent, which is actually a good thing. The brain starts seeing mistakes as part of the process instead of something to avoid. This reduces fear and increases willingness to try again. Over time, resilience builds naturally, not through motivation speeches, but through repeated exposure to small challenges. The interesting part is that confidence does not come from winning all the time. It comes from knowing that even after a setback, progress can continue. The identity shift that changes everything. At some point, something subtle but powerful starts to happen. The focus shifts from what is being achieved to who someone is becoming. Instead of chasing results, the brain starts reinforcing identity. Someone who writes a little every day starts seeing themselves as a writer. Someone who trains consistently, even in small amounts, starts seeing themselves as disciplined. This identity shift is what makes habits stick long-term. Because once behavior matches identity, consistency stops being a struggle. It becomes natural. The mistake most people make is trying to act like a completely different person overnight. But identity is built through evidence, and small wins provide that evidence daily. Why consistency beats intensity every time? There is a common belief that success requires intense effort, long hours, and constant pushing beyond limits. While effort matters, intensity without consistency rarely lasts. The brain resists extreme changes because they feel unsustainable. But small, consistent actions feel manageable, and that makes them repeatable. Over time, repetition compounds into results that look impressive from the outside, but felt simple during the process. This is why someone doing a little every day often surpasses someone doing a lot occasionally. The real advantage is not in working harder, but in showing up more often. The role of environment in daily wins willpower is often overrated. Some environment plays a much bigger role than most people realize. Small wins become easier when the surroundings support them. A cluttered space makes focus harder. Easy access to distractions reduces the likelihood of disciplined choices. But small adjustments in environment can create automatic wins. Keeping things organized, reducing friction for good habits, and increasing friction for distractions can completely change daily behavior. The brain naturally chooses the easiest option available. So when the right actions are made easier, consistency improves without extra effort. The compounding effect of tiny progress. One small win does not change much. 10 small wins feel encouraging, but hundreds of small wins create transformation. The effect is not linear, it is exponential. Progress builds on itself, and results start to accelerate over time. This is why early stages feel slow and sometimes frustrating. The brain expects visible change, but compounding takes time before it becomes noticeable. The mistake is quitting before that curve starts rising. But those who stay consistent eventually reach a point where progress feels faster, easier, and more rewarding. It is not because they suddenly improved, it is because their past efforts started stacking. Turning small wins into a lifestyle. At the end of the day, this is not about a short phase of improvement. It is about building a system that runs automatically. Small wins are not something that needs to be forced forever. They become part of daily life. The focus shifts from chasing motivation to maintaining rhythm. Some days will feel easier than others, and that is normal. What matters is not perfection but continuation. Missing once does not break progress. Stopping completely does. The goal is to create a flow where progress happens almost without thinking. And once that system is in place, growth stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like a natural outcome of daily choices. So the real question is not how to achieve something massive overnight, but what small win can be created today that moves things forward. Because that is where everything begins. Not in big moments, but in small decisions repeated consistently. If this shifted perspective even slightly, then it is already a step in the right direction. Share thoughts in the comments. What is one small win being focused on right now? And if this kind of mindset is something worth building, then staying connected will make sure nothing important gets missed.